Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about restaurants here in Thailand. No, we're not going to go over food. No, this isn't going to be your typical restaurant type video. Today we're going to talk about all the weird and eccentric things that you're going to have to get used to here in Thailand if you're coming here from a Western country. Things in restaurants are a little bit different. We've been here for 2 years and my wife and I had to brainstorm and we compiled all the things that you might encounter at some of the restaurants here. So we're going to start the list. Okay, the first one on the list is random days open. You're going to have some of your favorite restaurants wherever you live here, and they're closed on random days. One restaurant's closed on a Tuesday, one's closed on a Thursday. Another restaurant you might like is just closed or open whenever they feel like it. Nothing seems to make any rhyme or reason. Very strange, and it's hard to figure out which one of the restaurants that you like will be open on what day. Sometimes it feels like if the owner wakes up in the morning, it's like, I don't feel like working today. Restaurants closed, and that may be the way it goes, but it's just very random. So be prepared not to be able to know when your favorite restaurant will be open or when it won't be. I've been to restaurants that say open every day. It says it in English from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. I go there, closed. Go the next day, closed. Go the following day, they're open. No rhyme or reason, so you'll have to get used to that. Now you're in a restaurant and you found something on the menu that you want. So you point to the item on the menu. I'll have this. No have. Okay. Well, then I'll take this. Don't have that either. All right. Well, then let me get this. Do you have that? Yes. Okay. And to drink, I'll have the mango shake. No have, because mangoes aren't in season. So my point here is just because it's on the menu doesn't necessarily mean that they have it. You may get a little frustrated going through a bunch of items just to hear that they don't have it. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, why is it still on the menu? Just don't get upset. Just know that it's going to happen. Now, another one is, and this happens a lot, and that is, let's say you're sitting at a table with 4 people. Let's say there's 4 of you at a table and you all order food at the same time. One person may get their food 10 minutes before the second person, and then 15 minutes later the other person gets theirs, and then 5 minutes later the other person gets theirs. Don't be surprised. The only time my wife and I seem to get our food at the same time is when we're in a restaurant that's owned, like there's a Thai and a Westerner owning the restaurant. That seems to be the only time they bring out the food at the same time. Other than that, expect your food to come out at different times. Don't let it bother you. Just get used to it. It's going to happen. Now, just because you go into a restaurant and they have English on the menu doesn't mean that the waiter or waitress knows that word in English. So in other words, you go into a restaurant, let's say they have a buffalo chicken sandwich, and you're like, oh, I'll have the buffalo chicken sandwich. Huh? The buffalo chicken sandwich? So you're going to need to point to the item and give them a little time when you point to it, because what they're going to do is they're going to look at that item on the menu and they're going to look for the Thai script on there to know how to write it down. Because it's probably something, if they're new to the restaurant, it's probably something they haven't had before. They're not going to know how to write that down, so they're going to look at the Thai script to write it down, unless it's a waiter or waitress who's been at the restaurant for a long time. So just don't expect to rattle it off in English and expect them to know it just because it's on the menu in English. Now, before we go on, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. We'd really appreciate it. Now, sometimes you're going to go to restaurants and they have water for you and you may not even know it. You have to get it yourself. What you may see is looks like a big water cooler with a lid on, so you can't see inside. And then you'll see a bunch of cups stacked up. So if you go over and lift the lid up, you'll see that there's probably ice or water in there, and then there's a water dispenser somewhere. And you can get your ice and your water there and then go back to your seat. And they probably don't charge for it either. So this is something we had to get used to. We noticed other people doing it and we're like, oh, so there's where the water's at. Because you can order water and they may bring you bottled water, and that may be what you want. and you have to pay for that. But if you don't want to pay for it, you're just wanting the free water there, look around for it. If it's that type of restaurant, you'll see it. If you're in a fancier restaurant, you just obviously order water. Now there's certain restaurants, some in malls, some they're in this, like, let's say an area that's covered, but there's a lot of restaurants everywhere. The place will sell food, but they will not sell drinks. So it's not like you can go up to the place that sells good khao soi and go, I'll have a khao soi and I'll take a Coke Zero or a tea. They may not have drinks. It's very common. What you'll find if you look around is that there is one vendor who specializes in drinks. Some for your frozen drinks or your smoothies, and some other vendors will have water, Cokes, tea, and things like that. So don't get too confused for that. If you do see that they don't have any drinks, just take a look around and you'll probably find it there somewhere. If you're eating in a restaurant, let's say in a mall, now when you get your food, you're probably gonna have to go to another vendor for your drink, and you sit down and you eat. When you're done eating and drinking, you need to look for the area to return all your plates and your utensils and everything. Sometimes they can be hard to find. Usually they're on the outer perimeter of the little square you're probably eating in. So if you do get lost and that happens to you, go around the perimeter and look for the place to return your dishes and your silverware. And while you're eating, keep an eye out when people get up, whenever they're finished for their food, watch where they head. That may help you a little bit. My wife and I have both looked in malls for the place to return food, and it's taken us 5 minutes with both of us looking on the opposite side to find these things. The napkin dilemma. Sometimes, a lot of times, well, we'll just say half the time, you go to a restaurant and they don't have napkins for you. Now, I'm not talking about your higher end restaurants. I'm talking about your lower end restaurants. So you may want to keep some paper towels or some napkins on you for those instances when you're someplace that doesn't have a napkin available, because it can get quite annoying, especially if you're eating something that gets all over you. Now, another thing we need to discuss, since we're talking about restaurants, is the bathroom location. So here in Thailand, a lot of the bathrooms are located outside the restaurant in the back, or other places, obviously. But if you can't find it, if you're looking around and you don't see it, you can always ask. But if you want to find the bathroom on your own, don't be surprised if it's outside of the restaurant in the back. Sometimes it's outside the restaurant in the back and it's a good little walk to get to the bathrooms. And when you're in the bathroom, don't be surprised sometimes if you get eaten up by mosquitoes. Now, since we're talking about mosquitoes, don't be surprised too if you go into an indoor establishment and you get eaten up by mosquitoes. And you're probably wondering, how does that happen? Well, during the day, in between the busy time, they don't turn on the air conditioner, they leave the windows open, or the windows are already open and the mosquitoes come in, and there's people there. So, the mosquitoes are coming in the restaurant to eat people, and you will get eaten up even though you're eating inside of a restaurant. Happens a lot. So just keep that in mind. Always keep some either mosquito spray or some mosquito lotion on you. So if they're eating your legs up, you can rub some of that on there, or even ask the staff. A lot of times the staff will have mosquito spray. You just need to ask for it. So when you sit down, funny thing is that, let's say there's 8 of you at a table. And this happens a lot. They will give 2 out of the 8 a menu, maybe 3. Why didn't they give all 8 people a menu? I have no idea. But let's say 8 of you are sitting there, they'll give 3 of you the menu, and you look and you got to hand it to the person next to you. You might find that odd at the beginning. This happens all the time. Don't let it frustrate you. If you do want more menus, you can ask for them, but just know it's not typical, at least it hasn't been in my 2 years of living here in Thailand, that they give every single person a menu. So when they do give you a menu, one of 2 things are going to happen. One, they give you the menu and then they hover right there beside you with their pen and their paper ready to take your order, just kind of staring at you, which is very annoying and kind of intimidating. You're like, hurry up, hun, figure out what you want to eat. Hurry up, hurry up. Okay, so, and you can't ask them, can you give us a moment? I mean, obviously. So either that scenario is going to happen or they're going to vanish, which is not a big deal, because when you are ready to order, you need to look at them, make eye contact, and wave your hand that you are ready. That's a polite thing they're doing. They're giving you time to decide what you want, and they know when you're ready, you will flag them down. So do not expect them to keep checking on you going, are you ready yet? Are you ready to order yet? So something else to get used to here. So you ordered your food. I already told you that they're probably going to bring the food out at different times. So everyone's eating their food. Now it's time for you to get the bill. They're not going to come and check on you and go, are you ready for your bill yet? Are you ready to pay? You're going to have to wave them down, and they'll come over and you can ask for the bill. So if you want to ask for the bill, you can just say check. They'll know exactly what you're saying. So you can ask for the check and they will bring that to you, no problem, but just don't sit there for 10 minutes when you're done expecting them to just waltz over with the bill without you asking. Another thing to mention here is that if you go into some of the small restaurants with big denomination bills, let's say you've got a 1,000 baht bill, sometimes the smaller restaurants will not have change. Now, hopefully they'll do something about that, but you may want to go up to them and show them before you order and make sure that they can change it. More than likely, well, I guess it's 50-50. Either they will be able to or they will not be able to. If they're not, you may have to go break that thing up. So it's always good to have small bill denominations on you, is what my point is. And also, if you're expecting free drink refills, if you're from the United States, you usually get free drink refills when you're out to eat. It's not a thing here in Thailand. Let's say you order a Coke. So they're usually going to bring you a can of Coke, and if you ask for a glass and ice, they'll bring that to you as well. So they're not just going to keep bringing you new cans. There's no free refills. So if you do want more, you're going to have to pay for another can. The fountain drinks really aren't a common thing here. I know in the United States, there's fountain drinks everywhere, and it's what we're used to. Not the case here, so just be aware of that. Now, I do have a shout out for 2 people who gave to this channel using that thanks down below this video. And that is Jerry C. and Frederick J. So Jerry C. and Frederick J., thank you very much for contributing to the channel. We really appreciate it. As a reminder, we do have these shirts for sale, so check out our merchandise store. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. We would really appreciate it. If you like the video, like it. And if you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description down below. And if you feel like contributing to the channel monthly, there's Patreon. And anyway, till next time, I hope this really helps you out. Till next time, Kap Kun Kap.